Hey, welcome back to Album April. It's April 22nd, and today I listened to London Calling by The Clash. Considering how the random number generator has been treating me so far this month, I was like 85% sure I was going to draw this album the day after I reviewed Horses by Patti Smith. And since I was scared I would have the same criticisms for London Calling as I did for Horses, I thought it would just make me sound like a killjoy. Thankfully, that wasn't the case, but even if it was, as it turns out, I don't have anywhere close to the same reaction to London Calling as I did to Horses, but we'll get to that in a moment. Anyway, The Clash. The Clash was one of the biggest players in punk rock when they hit the scene in the late 70s. And just to give you a hint of the personalities they were trying to get across, they were sometimes billed as the only band that matters. They're also, for some reason, referred to as both post-punk and punk rock. Their third album, London Calling, was a huge success at the time, and looking back on it, people call that not only their best album, but one of the best albums ever. I listened to it, and my first impression is that I do not like the lead singer of The Clash's voice. It's a combination of two things. One is the really heavy accent, which I guess can't be helped. And the other one, I'm starting to regret making the joke in my In Rainbows review where it sounded like Tom York had a mouthful of peanut butter the whole time, because that's much more applicable to Joe Strummer from The Clash. Maybe even going further, it almost sounds like he's eating the peanut butter and having an allergic reaction to eating the peanut butter while he's singing. He also slurs quite a bit, to the point where he legitimately sounds drunk a few times. That might have been intentional sometimes. I don't know. He's also pretty hard to understand. And the point when I knew this was going to be a sticking point for me was that I was listening to one of the songs and I thought, okay, so the lead singer is doing better on this one. Like, it's not as thick, the slurring. He sounds a lot clearer. But it turns out that wasn't even Joe Strummer. That was another person in the band singing. And by the way, that song I'm talking about is my favorite song on the entire album, Lost in the Supermarket. And yes, you're probably having the same reaction I did upon first hearing this song's title. Like, really? This is a song on this groundbreaking punk rock album, but something happened, and this is the best sounding song on London Calling by a pretty wide margin. It has nice tight production, it's surprisingly catchy, and it has some really good energy to it. Conversely, there was not only songs that I disliked on London Calling, there were some songs that just baffle me as to why they exist. Probably the best example on the album is Jimmy Jazz, which is a song I don't get, like, at all. Maybe I just don't understand it, but the song didn't really make me want to try to understand it. Probably the worst song on the album is The Right Profile, because in this one, Strummer just straight up sounds drunk. And that might have been intentional. I think there are lyrics about being drunk, but even if it was intentional, that doesn't mean that it's good to listen to. Revolution Rock was kind of frustrating because it did pick up at the end, but for most of it, it just sort of seemed like meandering. So now we get to the question of, do I think this album holds up? And sorry, I don't. I mean, there are good things in it, but overall, it's not really my thing. The punk rock that I tend to like usually has an element of fun to it, and I didn't get a lot of that from London Calling. It isn't straight up irritating to go through like Horses was, but I still wasn't much of a fan. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow.